Good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are coming from. Hello, hello, hello. Whether you are coming from Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, South America, Antarctica, Oceanic, welcome to another night of track and field business. Of course, tonight we're going to talk about sponsorship endorsement. Are we ready? Sponsorship ready? Are we sponsorship ready? That is what we're going to talk about tonight. And of course, I have a gentleman who will be helping me with that information. Of course, he will be telling us about his organization, what he's doing, how he's helping athletes, retired athletes, and so forth. And just to talk about endorsement and what we need to do to get ourselves ready if we want to be sponsored. So wherever you are coming from, welcome to another night of track and field business. It's not my regular interview that is on a Thursday night. Of course, I'll be back Thursday night, but tonight we are here to look at some of the business of track and field and talk about sponsorship, endorsement, image, branding, and all those kind of things. So, guys, don't go anywhere. Josiah, welcome, welcome, welcome. Special good night to my 9-year-old fan, Josiah, who lives in New Jersey. Guys, welcome, welcome. Tell your friend, your family. I want everyone to join us tonight because this information that we're going to share is information that is going to help all of us because believe it or not, we are all a brand. Yes, we're all a brand. So come on in, get your water, your juice, your tea. Come on in and join us. But don't go anywhere. I will be back with my guest in less than a minute. Stay right there, guys. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Jamaica's track and field legacy is unmatched. It is a story of triumph, resilience, and extraordinary talent. But do you know the stories behind the athletes who brought us glory? Hi, I'm HP, founder of HP Chat Track. My mission is simple: to celebrate the rich legacy of Jamaica track and field and shine a light on the incredible people who make it happen. Winning that race was a dream come true, but the journey wasn't easy. It's not just about medals, it's about inspiring the next generation. Jamaica track and field isn't just a sport, it's our pride, our culture, our heart. Every week I sit down with athletes, coaches and fans to bring you stories of dedication, passion and legacy. Plus, we've got exciting news and exclusive insights into the world of track and field. Make your Thursday night be at HP's place. Come hang out with us at HP Chat Track Studio, where track and field is our business. Jamaica. One people, one legacy.
And we are back. Yes, we are back. And I have my guest with me. My guest is Rainford Hunter. In Jamaica, they call him Scouty. He is here tonight to just for us to have a discussion. I think we need to talk about this. Are we sponsorship ready? And of course, Scouty with his expertise in sport management and all those fancy things, sport marketing. And of course, he is from WCAMG Sport Agency, and he's going to share a little bit about his organization and how he can help us in order to land sponsorship. Scouty, welcome, welcome, welcome to HP Chat Track. I'm your girl HP. Welcome, Scouty. Remember, guys, to like, share, and all the niceties. Scouty, how are you? How was your day?
Yeah, I'm doing good, HP. Day was busy as usual.
Making
They,
a lot of money, right?
well, I'm setting up to do that, But as you probably don't know this, but the business I'm in now was not, even though I started my agency back in 2006. My primary background after I left college was environmental. I was an environmental engineer, for many years, for about 25 years, and
So
actually
how
that's what I
did So how did
Mhm.
you get from being an engineer to sport management or sport marketing and all the niceties that you're doing?
Right. Yeah. Um, well, for one, when I went to college, I majored in environmental engineering. Um, I got a bachelor's degree in industrial technology, and then I got a master's degree in environmental engineering. Um, and then I worked in that field for, for 25, 30 years until I actually retired from that, from that job, from that career recently. But all this while, I was coaching. I coach at the high school level. I coach at the collegiate level. Actually, I coach at the Division 1 college level. I was a sprint and hurdles coach at a major college here in Malibu, California. But track and field, I ran track when I was in high school. Obviously, I attended St. Andrew Technical High School, Stats, and then I got a track scholarship from Stats to attend Grambling State University, and I ran track at Grambling State University for 4 years. And fast forward, after graduation, um, I went to work in the environmental field, and at sometime around 2006, I decided to start to launch my own, sports agency. So I've been doing, um, athlete management, since then. Um, I've done quite a bit of immigration consulting work. I'm also involved with some, immigration consulting work as well. But that's sort of just when you manage international athletes, there are all kinds of issues with, especially when it comes to visas and things like that that you have to deal with. So I started what I did was I sort of leverage some of that visa work I was doing for the athletes when I started my agency, and started doing more of it, not just for my athletes but for other athletes who needs that kind of assistance as well. So it's just a natural transition from being a former athlete to getting in the environmental field. But like they say, once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete, and you become a fan of the sport, and you just follow the sport all throughout. And some of us try to stay involved, and this was my way of staying involved in the sport by becoming an agent. I had sort of backed away from the agent business for a number of years. But after COVID, hit, I decided to get back into it, a little bit. But I kind of got back into it with a different spin, because I used to, when I was in it originally, I was working primarily with current athletes, or active athletes, athletes who are active. But after COVID hit and the world came to a standstill,
Oh
and
yes.
yeah, there was nothing going on, track and field, everything just got canceled. And I was kind of, started thinking, is there something that I need to do to position my agency a little bit better? So if something like this should happen again, we won't be sitting at home, twiddling our a thumb and, waiting for.
Wondering how to survive, right?
Right, exactly. So I got into start looking at representing coaches, as well, and the idea of representing retired athletes also came to mind, and I started to delve more into that as well, because I've long believed that once an athlete retires, actually that shouldn't be the end of their ability to generate revenues. And so I started looking into doing more retired athlete representation. But that's sort of a new thing that I recently started a few years ago. So I've been kind of taking some time, doing my due diligence and trying to figure out, all the things that I need to, that I can and could be doing, or should be doing, to maximize how we can help, retired athletes, continue to earn revenues even long after they have retired. And we're working with some good ones right now.
I like that. I like that idea because you're doing something similar to what I am doing in terms of celebrating the legacy, of our athletes, and of course, Jamaica's legacy. And bringing these people into giving these athletes some visibility to make people know who they are, tell their story, creating a space, for them to tell their story, and of course for us to know who they are. So we are basically doing the same thing, and you're doing it a little different because you're now helping them to generate revenue based on their accomplishment over the years. But let me ask you something. Uh,
Hmm.
the topic tonight is, are we or are you sponsorship ready? Scouty. And as I said before, guys, his nickname is Scouty. Everybody know this man. But let me ask you, what is the difference between sponsorship and endorsement in the world of sport? I mean, many people think that it is one in the same. Is there a difference really, or is just another word to say the same thing?
Well, no, they're similar, and let me preface what I'm this by I mean, I already talked about my background being an environmental being an environmental engineer, right? So I don't have a master's. I have a master's degree in environmental engineer, not marketing. So I just want to make sure I get that out there. But over the years, based on I've done a lot of studies and a lot of research, in my pursuit of representing athletes, and I've attended a lot of seminars, a lot of workshops, read a lot of books, just do a lot of research on it on online and things like that. And yeah, what there's a difference between endorsements and sponsorships. Um, when I describe sponsorship, the way I define sponsorship is well, this is not just a definition, but when I talk to to potential sponsors about working with my athletes, sometimes they will say, a company, I may call a company, and the company may say, well, your athlete is retired, so what can they do for me? They can't do anything for us because they're retired. And I have to kind of give them an understanding of when we talk about retired athletes, not because they finished competing, doesn't mean that they're done. And as a matter of fact, that's kind of my tagline, right? Not because they're retired means that they're done, because they can still earn, they can still contribute in significant ways. But the way sponsorship is, endorsement is basically when a company hire a celebrity, for the most part, to endorse, their brand,
A popular, like a popular
like
person.
yeah, like a popular person for the most part, like a Michael Jordan, for example, have an endorsement deal with Nike. Um, Shaquille O'Neal, have endorsement deals with, I don't know, maybe a million companies, because he seemed to be doing better in
In
retirement than
retirement.
than when he was an active basketball player. And this is the point I'm trying to make, that not because you're retired means that you can't earn any longer. Your earning potential is finished. But sponsorship is more about you it's more long term, and it's more an opportunity where you are trying to seek resources or revenues to continue your pursuit. So you have to rely on someone to, or a company, to to step forward and sort of help you, provide you with funding, to help you pursue your dreams. So and like I said, sponsorship is for the most part is a long term type situation, where endorsement can be more like a short term type deal. Um, and the other way I define sponsorship is, and we can get more into this a little bit later, but when I talk to even athletes, they would ask me, so Mr. Hunter or Rainford or Scouty, whatever they call me, you know can you get me sponsorship with such and such? And my first question to them, or reaction to them, was, what is going to be the return on the sponsor's investment, right? Because sponsorship doesn't it's not just a matter of the sponsor sponsoring you without you know a return on their investment. No, not every company sponsors somebody or something or someone because they're looking for a return on their investment. Some people or some companies may sponsor something or somebody because they're trying to raise their profile in the community, or they're
Hold
trying
that
to.
thought. Hold that
Yeah.
thought. Hold that
Okay.
thought.
Okay.
Yes, hold that thought. We're going to talk
Okay.
about that because
Okay. Okay.
I did some research and I saw something similar to what you're saying. But let us just back up a little bit. I see many, many sponsees struggle, an athlete, an event, content creator, a brand that is trying to obtain sponsorship or endorsement, and they struggle to get that, while you will see someone else just doing something else and it's easy for them to have one, two, three sponsors. What are we not doing right? What are we doing wrong? Where so many you'll have so many athletes, teams, content creator and so forth struggle to obtain sponsorship.
Well, you have to go into it, with the mindset, like I said before. First and foremost, um, when you seek sponsorship, you have to understand that it's not about what the company can do for you. This is very important, and a lot of people kind of miss this point, right? Sponsorship is not necessarily about what the company can do for you. Sponsorship is more about what you can do for the company. If we're talking about an organization that you're trying to target for sponsorship, right? Because and a lot of times the athletes and those who are seeking sponsorship don't really understand the business side of what is involved with with getting sponsored. So what you have to do is that you have to, first of all, you have to understand that if you're going to approach the big companies. I was watching a thing, a presentation not too long ago, and the gentleman who was doing the presentation talked about how they receive about 80,000 requests per year for sponsorship. 80,000.
Wow.
Okay. So you can't just call up a company and say, can you sponsor me? Right. It takes a little bit more than that. First and foremost, you have to provide the companies with a with a with a proposal. But before you even get to the proposal, you have to do your research and do your due diligence. Whether it's the agent who is acting on your behalf, or you, the athlete, decide to do your research yourself. If you're targeting a certain particular company, um, you have to do your research to understand the company, the industry that the company is in, where the company is positioned within that industry. What are their marketing plan, are their marketing strategy, how do they make money? But let's face it, most companies do not have a line item in their marketing budget to sponsor athletes or coaches, or a football club. It just doesn't exist unless the company is trying to do their due diligence in terms of being seen as a good corporate community support of the community or something like that. But most companies don't have a line item in their budget to sponsor athletes. And so if you want them to sponsor you, you have to you have to present a proposal to them to make them understand that there's going to be a return on their investment. So you have to make that case to them, right? um like I said, this
Hold
one
that
can.
thought. Hold that thought. I'm going to read
Okay.
a comment. I'm going to
Okay.
read a comment from guys. If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome. Tonight is all about sponsorship, endorsement. Are we ready? sponsorship ready. But Davian Clark, Olympian, Jamaican Olympian quarter miler, is saying we have to make sure that the athlete team target the right brand that has the same values as the athlete. There needs to be the right connection. It doesn't matter who sponsor you. You just need a sponsor, right?
No, no, Davian is correct. I mean, for some people it doesn't matter, because money money is money, right? And
Right.
sponsorship is sponsorship. So for a lot of people, it really doesn't matter. But that's how you should approach it, though. If you like KFC, right? Or you love Jamaican K. I hear people talk about that all the time, right? Then it's okay to seek sponsorship from KFC, because you not just sponsorship, but you could even get an endorsement deal from them. And this kind of explain the difference again between endorsement and sponsorship, because when a company make a sponsorship, sponsor you, it's more of a long-term type deal. But if you just win a gold medal or a bronze medal or something like that at the Olympics, and you approach, okay, I see a lot of people get endorsement deal because them call a company's name after them just finished running a race. You
Yeah.
understand? And the company would be like, oh man, you know, that we need to talk to this athlete. You understand? And they can get a, maybe not a sponsorship, but they can get a, maybe a short-term endorsement deal to promote KFC or whatever the brand the brand is. But so there are unique little ways that you can draw the attention of some of these companies, if you're really smart about it. Obviously, you don't want to go out there every time you finish running a race and call a company's name, without them, without having a conversation with them first. But the key here is that, and that's what David said.
David. Man, I just have so much love for Davy,
But
and it's not
hey,
funny.
but we know of one athlete who got a big Nike deal because of a controversial situation that
I want to
involved
read that comment from
weed.
Davian. I want to read this comment from
Go
Davian.
ahead.
Davian Clark. I tell you, Davian is something else. Davian Clark, Jamaican Olympian quarter miler. My good friend Davian is saying, I don't smoke weed, so I would not take a weed sponsor. Davian, a sponsor is a sponsor. Why wouldn't I like that comment? But let me read something before you continue, Scouty. I was doing my little research in the back, and I read something that says many athletes have talent, but brands need more than performance. Let me read that again. Many athletes have talent, but brands need more than talent. They want to see someone who represents their values. Davian just said it. They want you to connect with a clear audience. You understand? They want you.
Mhm.
Another one that I saw that I love very, very much. They want you to be able to tell a compelling story. They
Right.
want you to be able to tell your story. So, guys, I have the platform for you to tell your story. But your thoughts on this data, Scotty?
Yeah, I mean, storytelling is absolutely critical in gaining sponsorship, and this is why I'm saying that, not because we have a lot of Olympic medalists walking around that doesn't have any sponsorship, and a lot of athletes who have done really well, who don't have sponsorship. Look at what's the runner name from the US, Ja'Cory Patterson, the 400-meter guy. He's working
Yes,
at
Jacory. Yeah.
he's working at Walmart, right? He
Hmm.
just run 43 something in the 400 the other day
At the Grand Slam, yes.
at the Grand Slam, right,
Hmm.
in Miami, I
Hmm.
believe. And
Yes.
does now from lane 9, from lane 8 or lane 9, right? Does now sponsorship. He might be negotiating something now. I don't know who his agent is, because I saw that he just also went to the Diamond League meeting, and he just run 40, 44, 30 something, and won that event as well. But
Mhm.
the point is, he doesn't have any sponsorship. And I might point out that guy. I've been watching that guy since that guy was at Virginia Tech, I believe he was at, right before he transferred to University of Florida, I believe. And he had an outstanding collegiate career, but he graduated and never got sponsored. Yeah, um, from what I understand,
Scouty. All right, it seems as if Scouty is having some internet problems there, but this, guys, this conversation is really, it is a good conversation. We need
not sure.
to, Scouty, are
Are
you
you there?
there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think I got
Yes,
kicked
I'm
out a
here.
while ago. No,
Yes, I think you're.
I was mentioning Fred Curley. I know he had sponsorship, earlier on this season, but for some reason, you know, one thing happened, and things
Yeah,
happened from and he lost his sponsorship. But nobody jumped on the bandwagon, to sign him after he lost his original sponsorship, and he's still running fast. He just run and then 9.9 or something like that a couple of weeks ago. And he's still running out there without sponsorship. But
a
that's because
lot of athletes are out there competing without sponsorship. But the funny thing that I've observed, I've seen athletes, and athletes have told me this, that they do not have a sponsor, but they are running in in a brand.
mistake. Well, when I was in the age, when I was actively representing athletes, some of the athletes I used to represent used to do the same thing. They would I would see them on TV, get them in the meet, but not sure what uniform they're gonna run in, because I know they didn't have sponsorship. Just for them to show up in full out, Nike outfit and Puma outfit and all this other kind of stuff. And after the race, I call them and ask them why did you run in that in that brand, and you're not branded. First of all, that does a couple of things. When you run, if you don't have sponsorship and you get out there and you run in a particular brand or a particular uniform, even if you run a fast time, right, or you perform well, if it's the throw or the jumps or other events like that, other companies are going to think that you're
That
already
you're
you're
sponsored. You're
sponsored.
already sponsored,
You're
yes.
already sponsored, so they're not going to approach you. So that's a mistake. When you if you don't have sponsorship, just find some kind of natural. If you run for a club,
Yeah, neutral. Find something neutral.
yeah,
I see athletes, some athletes, a few of them, if they're not sponsored, they're just running a full black kit. No brand, nothing on it. Even if you want to put your own initials on it. But to me, if you're not sponsored, you shouldn't. You know what I saw recently? I was at a meet, and a young man, he just competed, and he wanted one of the drink from the igloo. And you know what his agent did? His agent pull off the wrapping, the brand, and give him the drink, because guess what, she did not want him to be on camera with that brand that wasn't supporting him. So as you said earlier, sometimes athletes, they, not just athletes, but people who are seeking sponsorship or endorsement, they don't understand the business side of sports. So they just, okay, so we lost Scouty there. Hopefully he will reconnect. He's having some internet problems. But guys, this conversation is a good one to have, because we're here to educate, and we just want athletes and people seeking sponsorship to know that, look, you have to be ready, you have to be sponsorship ready. If you want endorsement, if you want sponsorship, image is important. What you do, how you look, it is a package. And hopefully Scouty can rejoin us. But until Scouty rejoin us, let us just say welcome again. Welcome, Africa. Welcome, Asia. I know that Damian Maxwell is in Taiwan. Um, he is in Taiwan or Singapore tuning in with us tonight. Damian, welcome. Of course, we will have Damian on Thursday night. Welcome to Davian Clark again. Welcome to Tamika, who is in the building. Welcome to Carrie Ann Phillips, who is in the building also. Welcome to Olympian Dorothy Scott, Genius, who is also here with us. Davian have some stories, I tell you guys. Davian is saying, I was at KFC Jamaica. I was KFC Jamaica #1 consumer. All right, let's see. I think Scouty just rejoined us. Let's see if we can reconnect
Oh
him.
boy.
Hey, Scouty. Yeah, I know the internet
Yeah.
sometimes, but I was just reading some comments
Uh,
until you return. But I want to read this one from Davian. Davian is saying, I was KFC Jamaica #1 consumer to this day. Not sure how I did not get a deal. They never saw me the way I saw them. How could we have made KFC notice me between when my alias was KFC?
oh my goodness. Oh man. Well. First of all, Davian, did KFC know that?
Did KFC know that you are their #1 fan?
Yeah, because you started out by saying you was KFC #1 consumer, right? That means you eat
Consumer,
a lot
yeah.
of KFC, right?
Yes, man.
But did they know that you were that big of a KFC, fan? Did you approach them and did you make a case for why they should sponsor you?
But
That's a thing. You and your agent had to approach them. But again, even though you love KFC, it's not about you loving their food. You understand? Or you loving their chicken, right? It's about you approaching them and letting them know what you have to offer, right? You're a multi-time Olympic medalist and,
medalist,
and,
yes.
and, and world championship medalist and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. That's great. That's important. That should get your feet in the door of KFC. But after you get your feet in the door, or at least get them to listen to you because you have done so well for the country. But then once you have that conversation with them, then the next point you have to make to them is let them understand how many fans you have. If you have 100,000 fans in Jamaica or 200,000 fans in Jamaica, you understand, and 500,000 fans in globally, then you have to provide them with that data and let them know that, listen, I have 150,000 fans in Jamaica, because that's gonna, as HP said, a lot of times it comes down to you providing the companies with data, because so many people are throwing uh, you know sponsorship requests at these companies, that is very difficult for you to stand out among all the things that all the proposals and interest they're getting. But you have to let them know that not only am I a lover of KFC, but I also have 150,000 fans that you guys can if you sign up a sponsorship deal with me, right? You guys can market your KFC to my fan base, which is 150,000 fans. And if they do the right kind of advertisement, which KFC does, right, they're gonna reach more than just your market. I mean, they do a lot of marketing and advertising in the Jamaican market. We all know that. But for you, what is it? Why should they sponsor you when they are already, capturing such a significant, you know, um, number of Jamaican, consumers?
Let us look at this comment from Tamika, and then I'm going to read something else. Tamika is saying the trouble that Curly got himself in, of course, it caused him to have a problem with his sponsorship deal. Carrie Ann Phillips is saying, I agree. Davian is asking, how many followers is important? That's a question I have. Thanks for that, Davian. Den, welcome. She said blessings, cause oh, that's my cousin. Blessings, Denise. Uh, all right. Daniel England is also in the building. Marlene Green is also here. Olympian Etlin Tate is also here. So everybody rolling in. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to share some more data that I picked up in my research, Scouty, and then you can comment on it. Let us now explore some of the common challenges Sponsees, all right, sponsees are the people seeking sponsorship or having. One of the thing I came up with is one is weak or inconsistent social media presence. Listen now, that's one of the challenges that sponsors are saying that you don't have enough social media presence. Another one is no clear brand identity. Brand identity is very, very important. So it means that you don't have a vision, you don't have a mission, you don't have a tagline. Where is your brand going? You need to have all of that. Another one is lack of media content or visibility. Scouty's favorite word, visibility,
Yep.
visibility. The next one is no professional pitch or proposal. Another important one. And another very important one, not actively engaging with fans or community. And I say this every time I come on my show that our athletes need to be visible. Our athletes need to communicate with their fans. Say something. There's a certain athlete that, not just one athlete, there are quite a few athletes that track and field fans are pining over, including myself. I won't call names, but there are some athletes where pining over. We don't know where they are. We don't know where they're training. They have not been in a meet in how long, and we keep asking the questions among ourselves. So sponsors want to know that you're engaging your fans. You have a professional pitch or proposal. You need media visibility. You need to tell your story. You need to have a brand. You need to have an identity. You know who have a very good identity? Shakari has a very good identity, and Noah Lyles. Those two athletes, when you talk about identity
And visibility.
and visibility, you need that in order to attract the right people. Your thoughts on this finding, Scouty?
No, every all of those that you pointed out are absolutely, spot on, right? Um, you say I use the visible. Let me get back to the whole concept of personal branding. Uh, very few track and field athletes, very few athletes are branded. As a matter of fact, I don't know of any athlete who have gone through the formal process of branding themselves, which is one of the things, what we do, right? When I first sign a client, an athlete, or a coach, or whatever the case may be, one of the first things I try to do is to develop a personal branding strategy for them, right? And a lot of times we don't see, well, we don't see that they and understand why it's important for them to brand themselves, as you pointed out. But basically, when you brand yourself, what you're doing is you're actually telling people who you are. You're portraying without even having too much of a conversation with them, right? They should be able to tell that you are a branded person because you have your personal little logo that you develop, right? You have your color scheme. Anytime them see a color, the color in a particular environment, they know that has to be associated with a certain athlete. They have no mission, they have no vision, like you said, most of the times. What are their core values? Companies want to know about that, Davian. Did KFC know about your core values, Davian? And these are the things that we have to, you and your agent, should have needed to present all of that to them to let them know that if they sign you, they're gonna be in good hands because they want to know that. So in addition to the personality, you know, um, they want to know that once they sign you, you're somebody that they're gonna be able to rely on and represent their brand in a manner that display are consistent with their values. And when you're a branded person, like I said, all of those things are understood, right? And when you talk to them, these are the things you have to say. They want to know what's different about you. So you have to have a differentiation strategy. What is it? What is different about you? Why Davian? Why not HP? Or why not Rainford? You know? So you have to tell them what's the difference between why we should sponsor, you over somebody else. That's your differentiation strategy. I talk to HP all the time, and you know what's different about HP is that HP is focused on interviews and interviewing of legacy athletes for the most part. You get other people involved sometimes, but you're not just one of those podcast show that just come on and just talk all the time, and you know do those like the 100 other podcast shows that are out there. You are very specific to what you're doing, and you have to explain that what's different about you, right? And then you have to talk about your audience, why your audience tune in to listen to you, right? You have to tell them all of that, because in the end, your audience or your subscribers is who they're going to market their products to. If you run a podcast show, one of the first things they're going to look at is to see how many subscribers you have, and that's why it's important that I'm giving you advice here. But every time you come on and you turn your camera on, you have to say, you have to tell the people, like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, I like the fact that when you come on, you say all the time, welcome to my fans in Asia and Africa and all of that, right? Even if it's one person in Asia, one person in Africa, what you're doing is you're sending a message to potential sponsors that your base is very broad, that you have listeners or you have subscribers all over the place. Sponsors are gonna be interested in hearing about where your audience are located, the demographics, not only the demographics, but where they're located. So that's a very good thing that you're saying, and you need to keep saying that more, in addition to the like, share, and subscribe, to build up that subscriber base. That's how you're gonna get attracted, to potential sponsors, because again, they want to know that when they sponsor you, they can promote their product to your audience, or your fan base.
Indeed, 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 indeed. This, guys, if you're just joining us, tonight is all about, are you sponsorship ready? Are we sponsorship ready? What we need to do in order to get ready. And of course, the chat is very, very busy. And let us look at a few more comments. Welcome, Lilith Hodges is also in the building, three times Olympian. She's here. Ethelyn Tate is here. Tamika is saying athletes will never know this all on their own, and this is true, and that's a very good question. That's a very good point from Tamika. How? And that's a question I have to close to the end. Athletes will never know this. Whose job is it to educate our athletes? And of course, I have some information to share. So it is really important for them to have an image consultant, and this is why I keep talking about having a PR person, having somebody that can help you to establish, to build. Because one of the things that I've observed is that our athletes are very, very quiet. Our athletes are very, very quiet. The Jamaican athletes are very, very quiet. It is so hard to find them sometimes on social media, and they need to be a little bit, in my opinion, and based on how the market and the industry is, they need to be a little bit more visible to attract more fans and also potential sponsors.
But just real quick, I agree with Tom. Is it Tamika who says that the athletes don't know this, right?
Yes, Tamika, right.
So and she's absolutely right. We
Yes.
should expect the athletes to know these things. That's why they have people around them. They
Mhm.
understand. So the first thing the athletes need to do is to put together a team of people around them who has specific responsibilities. hire somebody to do your like you said, your you're gonna need a publicist if you're gonna be, writing a book or something like that later on, right? You probably don't need it right away, but at least later on. But if sponsorship is a big deal for you, you probably should have, no, in all fairness to the athletes, it should be the agent's responsibility to do these things. And an agent doesn't have to be an expert in marketing, right? You should be willing to outsource, you know, some of those things that you are not good at, and that's a part of the problem, right? How many, how many coaches and agents are willing to get other people involved in helping them to manage their athletes' affairs, are helping their athletes to generate revenues, because you can't just depend on getting your athletes in Diamond League meet. Not everybody can get a lane in a Diamond League meet, or a spot, if you're a jumper or a thrower or whatever. Those things are going to be few and far between. What are you going to do in the meantime, right? You need to have the athletes need people around them, to be able to guide them, and to be looking for these opportunities for them. And if it means, like I said, farming partnerships, with outside companies that specializes in these kind of. I have two companies I'm working with right now, because since I decided to start, we are going to make sponsorship a revenue source for our company, right? So that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to educate myself as much as I can about the whole idea and the whole concept of sponsorship, because eventually that's going to be a revenue source, for us, right? So I want to know what the companies are, what do you need, from me? Yeah, they have to you have to understand that. How are you networking with these companies, right? I just became a member of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce. You understand? And I reach out to the private sector organization of Jamaica. And people may say, okay, you're a sports agency. Why? Even the Jamaica Manufacturers Association, I reached out to them recently, and I'm going to join up and become a member of them. So these are some ideas I'm giving away for free for those agents who are listening, our agents who are listening, to make, for you to understand that the networking, right, is with people that you want to pursue, right, is very important. I should pick up my phone and call somebody from Digicel or from Grace Kennedy and said, hey, such and such, I'm looking for sponsorship. Even with providing to them, they are gonna likely to do business with me if they know me. So by me becoming a member of those organizations where I know they show for those meetings all the time, right? Then I will be a part of those meetings, too. And I'll get on a committee or something like that, sitting next to, the. When I used to work, I used to do the same thing. Well, I said when I used to work, as if I don't work anymore. But um, I used to be a part of not for profit. There was a time when I served on 9 different not for profit, boards in the community,
I
boards
need
of
to put you. I
directors.
need to put you on mine.
We can, yeah, man. I'll be more than happy to do that. But a part of my plan when I did that, even though I had an interest in serving the community, it was more about networking to position myself. So if I have to leave this job, I can pick up my phone, and I can't tell you how many times I would pick up my phone and call a senior vice president in a big company, and the secretary would say, well, he or she's not available. And I said, tell him it's Rainford Hunter, man. And they would say, hold on a minute. And they go into the office and said, Mr. Rainford Hunter is on the phone, want to talk to you. And they will come back and say, okay, Mr. Hunter, I'll put you through. Right? Because if him never take my call, if he or she didn't take my call, he's gonna hear it at the next board meeting. When I see him next time at my next board meeting, right? So those little things are very important. We don't expect the athletes them to do these things to put themselves in position to get sponsorship, but the people around them are the ones who need to be doing those kind of things.
Okay. My next point now is, what are some of the reasons that a brand should seek sponsorship or endorsement or both? And some of the things that I came up with in my research. The first point is to elevate visibility and reach. Your favorite word, Scouty,
Yep.
visibility. We
Yep.
always have conversations about visibility.
Right.
And this is to expand your platform. In my case, let me use me. I am seeking sponsorship to expand my platform, to promote Jamaica track and field to a wider audience, and to reach more fans, more athletes, and more supporters, locally and globally. So, in other words, I'm aligning my brand with others to show a credible impact of the brand. You heard what it says? A credible impact of the brand. Your thoughts?
So that those are very important. But I'm also gonna say something probably, and I just became aware of this, as well. And I thought, okay, all right, this is interesting. Although you are the one who is seeking sponsorship, and you know what you need to, well, you're the one looking for funding, right? If you become an established brand, you can sponsor yourself. Not only can you sponsor yourself, but you can sell your brand in return for sponsorship. All right, let me explain that.
Explain a little bit more. Yeah.
All right. So if you have a podcast person, another podcast person who's, let's say, just starting up, or maybe a small company, small business trying to start up their business, and you have 200,000 subscribers, right? Instead of waiting for that company to come to you, are you, well, you wouldn't pursue them for sponsorship, but you know that they're small and they're trying to grow. You can approach them and let them know that I can help you to grow. It's gonna cost you a little bit, but if you sponsor, come on board, you know, with me, right? You're approaching them, you're the brand. You They can tap into your 200,000 subscriber, you know, base, our fan base, right? I don't know if I'm explaining that right.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, it might be a little complicated, but you don't have to be seeking sponsored to fund your business if you are at a certain, level, or a certain, threshold. Call up Shelly Ann and tell her that you
All right, guys. Scouty is having some connect.
are doing it.
Okay, you're having some connection problem there, Scouty. Do you want to repeat that for us?
No, I was saying, no, I was just throwing out a name,
Yes.
and for some reason it
Call up
just,
Shelly.
Shelly Ann name came up. But
Yes.
Shelly Ann is very visible. She's very marketable and all of that. Call her up and ask her to endorse you.
Davian said something earlier. Let me go back to Davian. Davian said the top social media people in Jamaica are Johan Blake. Well, he said Blake. I'm going to assume that is Johan. Johan, Usain, Asafa, Shelley, and Leon Bailey. So it's interesting that you call Shellyan's name. And you're right, those people are very visible because I follow them on social media, and yeah, they're very much visible. They're doing their thing. I mean, Shellyan just got the road that she grew up on, named after her. Just when was that? Yesterday or over the weekend.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So she is a big deal and stuff. But We visibility is important. Another thing that I came across why brands should seek sponsorship and endorsement is to support production quality and growth. What this means is with financial or in-kind support, example like equipment, studio space, marketing tools, and all of that, one can improve the quality of their brand to enhance viewer experience.
Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be about money, right?
Yes, true.
If you have certain needs, and you can find a good, as Davian was saying earlier, a good fit. Yeah, you seek out those companies, and at least go to the gym all the time, and I'm pretty sure it's a pretty penny they have to pay, because a lot of, most of them don't own their own gym, right?
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
call up the gym owner, and ask if they can work out a deal, with you, or something like that. That way you don't have to be paying, gym fees, right?
Yeah,
And in return, you work out a name, image, and likeness, maybe, small deal, and they can run some commercials or do some advertisement, put up a billboard, and with your big face, with a picture on it, and all them kind of stuff there. And it's a win-win, because anytime they do that, it's also providing you, with more visibility as well, and helping you to get your name out there, right? But like I said, to kind of, summarize with our athletes, because that's kind of the main, crux, I guess, of the having this conversation, is that, that they have to figure out, they have to do a little bit more, in terms of understanding. uh, I don't. It's very difficult, because you want the athletes them to be focused on their primary task. You know what I mean, which is to train and run, and things like that. Um, but the people who are managing them and who are around them need to understand these things, and try to leverage, um, whatever it is they're doing with the athlete. And if they can't do it, if they don't have the expertise to do it, outsource it. It doesn't mean that you have to keep everything to yourself. It's all about the athlete, and maximizing revenues, right? Because we all know that athletes' lifespan are very short.
yeah.
So you have to.
If you get 10 active years as a track and field athlete, you get a lot.
Yeah, it's short, and that's with no injuries. you know but so you have to take injuries into consideration, and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. But the other thing that the athletes need to do, and I want to talk about this doesn't have to do with. I mean, I'm not offering advice. This is just my observation, and my own thoughts. Anytime you get to represent your country, you should do that every chance you get. You understand? I don't care if it's the Pan American Games, or the CAC Games, or the Commonwealth Games.
Commonwealth.
Commonwealth Games is a big meet, and I see people refusing call-ups or invitation to go compete at the Commonwealth Games. Now, if you are a Usain Bolt, a Shelley, or Elaine, or Veronica Campbell, or whatever, maybe you can pick and choose which meet you run at,
But
because
all the names that you've just called have competed at the Commonwealth Games for
that's that,
Jamaica.
that, that's true. That's true. That's true. But we also are aware that there are a lot of athletes out there who refuses invitations to compete at some of those meets. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to the Pan American. You have to try to build a legacy, but it's not just building of a legacy. It's also marketing yourself,
Marketing your legacy.
marketing your legacy, and marketing yourself, marketing your name. You understand? So that people become familiar with who you are. So it, like all of those athletes that I just mentioned, they might be considered tier one athletes. I don't know. I have my own definition of tier two, tier three. Tier one might be athletes who are ranked in the top 30 on the world list. Tier two, I don't know. Davian may can help us with this. Tier two would be, you know, 30 to 60 or something like that. Tier three, 60 to 100, on the world list. How many? If you rank 30 and below, what's your chance of getting into a Diamond League meet? It's slim to none,
Yeah.
because it's not just about your performance, right? You have to also, and I know this because I was in the agent business before, but it is not uncommon for a camp, a meet director to call up a coach or an agent because they have an interest in a particular athlete. And for the coach or the agent to say, we'll make that athlete available. However, you have to take, you have to take Juliet, and you have to take Marcia, and you have to take Annette, and you have to take
The whole
Tony,
team.
and you have to take, yes, to get that one athlete. And sometimes the meet directors then would do it because they want that one athlete bad. So what that does, it eliminates lanes for a lot of other agents or athletes who wanted a lane or who deserved a lane. But again, we're not talking about that's getting into the politics of the sport and how
Yeah.
things work, and that's
Yeah.
not what
Yeah.
we're talking about here. So I'll
And
leave that for now.
before you go any further, let's just look at some more comments here. I'm seeing some, some good comments coming out. Kerry and Phillips is saying it's a smaller market, but it will be a new market or opportunity for your brand. That's true. Track Hero is saying no Jamaican primary school or prep school is sponsored by a shoe company. How can that change? The next thing he said was also no Eastern High School is sponsored by a shoe company. Titchfield, I think, was sponsored by Puma once. How does that change as well? And that's a very good question, because sometimes we tend to look at sponsorship from just apparel companies. There are so many other ways, other companies to get sponsorship. We have so many other industries. It's not just the shoe companies, but we have hotel chains, we have corporate, we have factories, we have motor vehicle, we have the movie industry, we have perfume, we have makeup,
Yep.
we have all these other industries, but
And
of
you don't and
course,
you don't have to go after the big companies. You can look for the companies that are trying to grow, right? You can look at the companies that are the smaller companies or mid-sized companies that are trying to get more market share within a particular sector. You understand? But Track Hero is onto something, because we have been talking to high schools, and we haven't gone down to the middle schools and primary schools yet. But we have been talking with some of those folks as well. But all of that is important. And as HP said, it doesn't, even for some of our big athletes who, or our senior athletes who doesn't have sponsorship now, forget, if it's becoming such a big deal, a problem to get a sponsorship deal with the Nike, the Puma, the Adidas, those kind of, seek some private sponsorship, like you said. Go to some smaller companies, you understand? Go to some, do some creative things, to generate, more revenues, so you can. It doesn't matter, when you go to the meet running a one foot a Nike and one foot a Adidas, or something. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I I saw Curly, Fred Curly did something like that.
Did
I don't
he?
know yes, it wasn't the shoes, but the kit he was in was for one company, and the shoe was for another
I don't think that
company.
was planned, though. I think that's a Fred Curly.
So I don't know if he was strategic in doing that, or what. But you're right. You are so right. The Carrion Phillips is saying the schools need to market to the potential sponsors. And I like what Carrion Phillips is saying, and
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you why. I have been saying this for a long time. The schools need to market their legacy. The schools, a lot of our schools out there, they have sports legacy and they are not using that to their advantage. They have a lot of schools, some of them have uh, ministers in government, some of them are prime minister, some of them have athletes, whether in football, in cricket, in track and field. Use the accomplishment of your school to market your school to get resources. And one of the schools that I'm going to use is St. Mary High School, because I've always been saying St. Mary High School have produced some outstanding athletes. And I'm saying, and I keep going back to Aileen Bailey's story. When Aileen was looking for a school to go when she was much younger to continue her track and field craft, I asked her the question, did you know that Jackie Pusey attended St. Mary High? She said no. And what they used to sell very technical to Aileen was Merlin Otti. They used the fact that Merlin Otti went to Veer and that Aileen would be staying in the same dorm that Merlin lived in and that she was sold. You understand? So use your school legacy to market your school so that you can get the resources that you need. Look at a school like Camperdown. Camperdown has produced some outstanding people. Cricketers, footballers, track and field athletes, Olympic champion, one of the top coaches in the world.
Yeah, Glenn Mills.
Glenn Mills. Donald Quarry, so many of
Raymond
them,
Raymond Stewart.
Raymond Stewart, Wavell
Those guys from the
Hines,
Camperdown, yeah.
you know, so many. So use your school legacy to promote your school, to market your school, to get the things that you need. But the next question I want to ask you, Scouty, and of course I have some research too to share.
Mm-hmm.
Potential sponsors. When a company decide that they're going to sponsor an athlete, a team, content creator, whatever, what are they looking to gain in return? One of the things I have is brand exposure and visibility. They want to see their logo, they want to see their name, they want to see people using their products in a wide audience. Your thoughts?
Yeah, right, exactly. You know, they and that's why I said earlier that it's not about what the company can do for you. It's about what you can do, for the company. So you have to understand what the company, what their needs are, right? And if you present that to them, your chance of getting sponsored is gonna increase, significantly. But some companies, it depends on what the company is looking for. I mean, I read in the paper a few years ago where one of our Olympic gold medalists was approached by a resort and to potentially offer some sponsorship opportunities, and it somehow didn't work out, and I don't know the details of it. But knowing the brand, knowing that resort, that the resort that I'm referring to, in their case, I don't think they would be looking for a return on investment, right? Just simply because a person won a gold medal.
They would be looking for like community impact.
Well, community impact, but what they wanted to also do, I think, I didn't talk to the CEO, so I don't know, but what I'm thinking they wanted to do was to position themselves with their competitors, to say, we are a gold medal brand. We are the gold medal brand when it comes to resort and where you want to stay. When you're looking for a place to stay in Jamaica, not a silver medal or a bronze medal, but we are the gold medal. Brand that you should
Resort.
resorts that you yeah that resorts that you should be looking to. So a lot of times when a company, offers sponsorship, it's not just about the return on the investment, but like you said, like I said, to Grace Kennedy does a lot in Jamaica, Digicel, Flow, some of these companies, and a lot of them do it not just mainly for, well, for one, to keep their name visible, within, among consumers, within the Jamaican consumer market, but to also send a message that they're socially responsible. They're socially responsible, so they know there's a need in the high schools. There's a need, among young children, with respect to, to certain things that young people need to learn and understand. And some companies will offer sponsorships to address those kinds of things. So it's not necessarily have to be about money and seeking a return on their investment. But you have to understand that when you approach them, you have to understand that. The other day, you and I had a conversation. We were talking about this one company um, that sell crackers, and they dominated the Jamaican market for a very, very long time. And all of a sudden, another company introduced their version of the same crackers. And what happened? What we don't know, that there's a competition going on between both of them, but the original company now realize that, this company is trying to steal market share, or take away market share from us, not steal, but take away market share from us. So we're gonna have to step our game up. You understand? We can't continue to be comfortable anymore, right? So that me now hear stories like that. I haven't done it yet, but um, it's a perfect opportunity. Let me just put it this way: for somebody to approach one of those companies and say, "Listen, you're being threatened. We have a strategy that we believe can help you maintain your market share or even increase your market share." Or you can go to the competitor and say, "We know you're trying to take away market share from this other company. We can help you do that." So if you approach one and they say no, then you just go to the
You go
next
to the
one.
other. You go to
Yeah,
the next one.
yeah, you go to the other one and say, and when the other one now say, "Well, wait a minute," when them start kick your ass now, pardon my language, you can't say, "We came to you first, and you turn us down." These guys listen to us, and they believe in our plan and our strategy, and they offer us a deal, and so we're working with them. So it's your loss. So, but you have to understand all of those little dynamics that are taking place, within the consumer market and the brand, market, and all of what's going on. Another example is, I did some research the other day, and you have this company in Jamaica. It took them 100 years to make $1 billion. Maybe there are some people listening, or this video will get to them. It took them 100 years to get to generate a billion US dollars in the Jamaican market. Not just the Jamaican market, but with their product. 100 years to get to $1 billion. The next 5 years, by 2030, that company is looking to double in size. So
Wow.
if it take you 100 years to get
To
to
me,
$1 billion, how the hell are you gonna get to the second billion in 5 years?
they have a super strategy.
That's exactly right. How are they gonna achieve that? That was what my research showed. And so, me knowing that now is trying to position myself to say,
I
maybe I
can help
can't,
you.
yeah, maybe I can't help you generate the whole billion, but maybe I can help you generate 100 million. And here's how we're gonna do that. But again, it takes researching the
Yeah.
market, researching, what the companies are, what their plans and their goals are, because that's going to be a challenge to for them to. But you know, they have marketing people who sleep who lose sleep every night when they go home and go to bed at night. They're always thinking of. So your job now is to make life easier for them. So when me present my proposal now, I'm gonna say, I know what you go through. I know you lose sleep at night because you're under pressure to generate that second $1 billion, and a lot of it is gonna up to you and your sales team. All right, let me take some of that pressure off of you. All right,
Mm-hmm.
here's what we can do to help. Right, and let them go sleep on that and think
Wow.
about it.
Wow. How can we help? Because most of this focus is really on our athletes, our team. Recently, I just discovered that we have an active masters league or program. And of course, I'm going to have one of our athletes this Thursday night coming up. And sponsorship is a big part of the problem. How can we help athletes to maintain and protect their brand and their values, especially well before and after they secure a deal? How can we get information like this out there to our young and upcoming athletes, who want to be sponsorship ready? How can we get the information to them? Because I don't know. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm asking you, Scouty. I have some things on paper that I did my research and I came up with, but how can we help our young and upcoming athletes and other branches of the sport to be sponsorship ready? Because when you look at it, it's only a small part of the track and field industry in Jamaica is sponsored. It is just some high schools, no primary or prep school, no school from the east, and we're talking about schools like from St. Mary and St. Thomas and Portland, those parts. How can we help them to get sponsorship ready?
Yeah, well, a lot of what we have said, before, but uh, for a lot of those, like the high schools and the younger, well, you can't really approach younger people, for sponsorship because
All right, guys. As I said before, welcome if you're just joining us. Cody's having some internet problems there. So
am I
while
out?
he reconnects, okay, here he is back. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, well, it's just a matter of understanding, reaching out to companies, but doing it in a far more structured way. But something kind of came to mind when you talked about the high schools and how many Olympians we have, who attend our high schools. I mean, my my kids went to a high school down the street here in California, and I don't know of one Olympic athlete who attended my kids' high school.
Look at that. We
And
are blessed.
you understand?
Mhm.
And that's the case across America, right? And other places, as well. Jamaica doesn't. Jamaica, we don't have the kind of. No, you will see that at the collegiate level, and the coaches and the athletic departments, they make sure that they promote their, when they bring a recruit in, they will talk to the recruit about who attended their universities and things like that. Our high school can do the same thing.
Exactly.
Not from a recruitment standpoint necessarily, but I do know, Jamaican high schools recruit, like crazy, and in the US not so much, but I know they recruit here as well. But if you have 30 Olympic medal, if you have one high school, that's more than most colleges in the United States.
Listen, we have one high school that have more than 30 Olympians. I have the data.
Yes,
More than 30 Olympian, one high school in Jamaica.
and a school like that, what is that school doing to leverage that?
And this is why I keep saying that schools need to use their legacy, what the past students have done and where they are now,
Correct.
to their advantage. Use that to get the resources that your institution needs to get to another level. And of course, I just told Aileen Bailey's story. She is from St. Mary and she went to a high school in Clarendon on the other side of the country because Veer Technical used their legacy to sell her the idea that come to our school because you will be staying in a dorm where Merlin Ati and Merlin did not went to Veer for very long. She did
And
she did not do years there, but her name, the
right,
fact that she went there, her name can be used for every.
right. So they did use that to their advantage. From that particular recruitment, standpoint, but they can also leverage, the success they have had over the years, to generate more, resources for their school.
Yeah.
You understand? If you have that many Olympians and Olympic medalists who has gone through, who has attended your school, um, you know, the school can utilize that resources to approach, potential, sponsors,
Mhm.
to say, hey, we churn out, X number of Olympians, over the last, 50 years, and we're not about to slow down anytime soon, but we need you guys to come on board, or something that, to that effect. We need a new gym, we need a track. We did all of this without having a proper run it, track and all of that. So, but you have to present and package that in such a way where it's going to make sense for the, for the potential, sponsor. Maybe the sponsor, them we name the track after them or
Mhm.
something. You
Yeah.
understand?
Mhm.
If it's not an individual, some of those wealthy men, and, people in Jamaica, men, women, whatever their names are. But if we want to focus on brand, we can do that. If you have Digicel build a track for you, you put Digicel on the, in big lettering, all, right down the 100 meter, stretch in huge, lettering, so,
I've seen
yeah.
here in the US where they build stadium and it is named after different brands like the stadium in the facility in where is it? Is
Hey,
it in
don't get me started with that, Don't get me started with that,
there's
Be-
so many stadium that are named after brands
because I
because
don't know, I don't know why we have a national stadium,
yeah, stadium is not for the country.
and it's called the National Stadium.
It
There,
doesn't
there, there is not
necessarily
one major stadium in America that is not named after a company or a brand or
or
some company
somebody
like
or something.
that. You
Yeah,
name me one. None of the football stadiums, the basketball arenas,
basketball, yeah.
Staples Center right down the street from where I live, live here in LA, right? Yeah, you have, they are, the
I, I
Miami
can
football
I can
stadium.
build a stadium and call it HP Chat Track Stadium
Yeah,
or the
and
HP Chat Track multi-purpose facility.
yeah,
Anybody can build it and name it what you want to name it.
that
It
gets
doesn't
into
have to belong to the state.
sponsorship and endorsement. That is why
Hmm.
I'm saying that, with Jamaica, I've been reading for 20 years now how they're struggling with money to, to come up, or they're trying to come up
To
with money to,
upgrade our
upgrade the stadium and
infrastructure
all that.
and to
And
build
it shouldn't be. First of all, the government don't need to be in that kind of in the business of
in
running
that
stadiums.
in that conversation.
No, yeah, they don't need to be in the business of running stadiums. I've one of those companies put their name on it, and the darn thing, and call it,
Yeah,
whatever. You understand? And the other thing
digital
they could do,
multi-purpose. You could
the,
even
the other
name it Grace Kennedy Stadium.
the other thing they could do, and people talk about how slow Jamaica is when it comes to recognizing their legacy athletes, is the Crawford Stadium. Kirani GM
In
Stadium.
yeah, yeah. Look at
Oh,
that.
oh,
Usain Bolt Stadium,
eh,
Veronica Campbell Brown Stadium.
we don't do any of that. We're not doing any of that
Yeah,
in Jamaica.
yeah,
Kirani is still running, and a stadium is named Kim Collins Stadium in
yeah.
St. Kitts. They're
Hmm.
all named after of their athletes who have done well for their country. But
Yeah.
we have the Kingston National Stadium still there,
National Stadium.
you know,
Yeah,
with no recognition of anybody,
yes, yes,
and that's
yes.
ridiculous.
Yep, 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 yep. And as you said before, I think we're not really getting into the business of sport and to see it for what it is, that it is a business that a person, if you have the resources, you can just build a facility. Look at the one that we have in Trelawney. That could be a facility named after Usain Bolt. You know, you can build a stadium in a mini stadium in St. Mary and call it the Aileen Bailey Stadium, the Lily Hodges Stadium, you know, the Jackie Pusey Stadium.
Well,
Any,
I tell you,
any
all of the high schools them should be doing that.
I don't think
You know,
we
when
don't
they build a track.
understand. We're not getting it. We're not getting it. We can do it, you know, because let me tell you, track and field Jamaica is one of the biggest brand. And I'm going to read something that I found in my research. But Tamika was saying something, and I think carry on. Let me just read that, where Tamika said athletes need to first recognize that they are a brand. That's important. If an athlete doesn't recognize that they are a brand, then they're in a serious spot. And let me tell you how these are some of the ways I came up with how we can help athletes to understand that they are a brand and how they can protect their brand. We can have workshops and seminars online, in person, host free or low cost educational system where athletes learn how to build a personal brand, because I don't think a lot of our athletes know how to build a personal brand. What sponsors look for. I don't think a lot of athletes know what a sponsor is looking for. Of course, we talked about some of them earlier. Another thing that we need our young athletes to know, and not just our young athletes, but our athletes in general, or people in general who is seeking sponsorship, how to approach companies professionally. Another thing is social media do and don'ts. That is the big one. I think that's how we can help them. But how do you get this information out there to them? It's another thing. Do you do it online? Do you bring them into a classroom? I think things like these can be taught at the high school level. I think this can be taught at the high school level. I don't know what the curriculum is like for high school. Outside of maths and English, I don't know which other subjects. So I think at the high school level is when they start to get a little bit more serious about their career. So I think at this level, we can have seminars for our athletes. Whether you play football, whether you play hockey, whether you do track, I think this kind of seminar, this kind of thing can be taught in high school. So at least the athlete themselves will know that, look, I am a brand and I need, and these are some of the do's and the don'ts. So those were some of the things that I came up with. Another one is mentorship and ambassador programs. Create peer-led systems. So an athlete who is already sponsored, let's say you have a senior athlete, an athlete like, let's use Shelly again. Shelly name keeps coming up. Shelly, who is an ambassador for Digicel and Grace, are sponsored by them. We could use Shelly as a person to talk to the younger athletes who are just coming out of school. We have a young batch of athletes right now in the back. We have the Clayton twins. We have Serena Cole. We have all of these young athletes just leaving high school and trying to navigate the space. Have people like Shelly do mentorship seminars, you know. So that was some of the things that I came up with, where she would share, real world advice, help review social media pitches, how you set up your profile on social media. It says a lot about your brand. And that's what I realized. You have to have a
Right.
professional social media profile. And of course, we are even still learning ourselves. Offer encouragement and networking. We have a lot of athletes out there who are seen. Veronica Campbell Brown, she's one of the face of the Grand Slam series. So I think it is on us to help our babies who are coming up in, your thoughts on that. I see you're reading some of the comments. Do you want to share some of the comments?
Oh no, I was just reading. I was looking at a few of them, where people were saying, "Does Usain Bolt want to repair the stadium? Who should build it?" You know, and one person said it's Kerry and Phillips said make it a part of the curriculum as far as the information for the young athletes. And one person says should an athlete come out of their shell in that way in order to get some more money. Well, if they're in their shell, they then yeah, they need to come out of their shell if they because being an introvert and being an introvert all the time is probably not going to work to their favor. I tend to be an introvert sometimes, and I don't like necessarily like going in front of the microphone or the camera. I don't, HP, I don't even know how you get me on your program today because, um, but
I
I'm
have
like,
a way with people.
okay, but I'm not an athlete, so I'm not an athlete, so I don't need to I don't need to promote myself, even though I'm starting to do it more because I realize how important it is. But Kerry Ann Phillips says create an official training center for athletes.
I like that.
I
I
have
like that.
long I have long thought that that is something that that should be done. And at that training center, not only should they have a track, it doesn't have to be a 400-meter track as part of that training center. It could be a couple. It could be a couple
It
lane,
could
like a few lanes. It could just have
It
straightaways.
could it could be an information center. If you
Yeah,
want to learn whatever you want to learn about the sport, come here. And then what
right.
they can do is have scheduled classes for
Right.
athletes to come. You want to learn about money management. You want to learn about your image. You want to learn about social media presence. Anything you want to learn about, and people could volunteer and teach these classes. You could even
Right.
have athletes who come in and do some of these classes, educate the younger athletes. Let it be a part of their training, and their clubs would allow them to, okay, let's say there will be a seminar on money management on Friday. All coaches would give their athletes a few hours to attend this seminar, and you call in the banks, you call in people in finance to come in and talk to them. Then you get some athletes, retired or current, senior athletes, to come in, share their story about money. Athletes will come and tell you, when I got my first check, I went and buy a BMW and it was the worst mistake. Tell their authentic story, because I know that a lot of athletes have made bad decisions with money because they've told me. They've said to me, miss, the first money me get, me go buy a car, and is the worst mistake I made. So they need to know these things. So I agree with Carrie, a training center, and set
Yeah.
up seminars and have them coming in even from as early as high school, because as I said before, high school is where our athletes start getting serious
Right.
about having a career in sports. And It would not be just for track and field athletes. It can be for every sporting discipline that you play, because at the end of the day it is the same thing. So maybe the Jamaica Football Federation, the J3, netball, rugby, basketball, swimming, maybe all of these federations need to come together, have a conversation, and say, look, we need to educate our young athletes about brand. What is a brand? What sponsors are looking for? How to get endorsement? How you carry yourself? Nobody is saying you have to go out there and twang. That's not what you're saying. But you have to have, and they should not be afraid to tell their story, because now I notice that one of the biggest profession that is now popping up is um, public speaking. People want you to come tell your story. If you have a good story, you can get paid to tell your story. You come into a room, you tell people about your challenges, tell people, oh, you almost lose your house because you're trying to build your brand. Inspire people with your story. So we really need to be having these discussions more, and the powers that be really need to. There's so many things we need to think about that make the whole. And as we said before, people, the stadium don't have to belong to the country. The stadium can belong to a private person, a company. It can belong to a single person. The stadium can belong to a YouTuber. A YouTuber can say, look, I have a few $1 million. I am from St. Mary. I want to build a mini stadium in St. Mary that can hold 10,000 fans. You don't want more than that.
Yeah,
And then you get sponsors to maintain it.
right, right. And as Anthony Henry is saying, these ideas have been thrown out. As a matter of fact, there has been extensive research and documentation that have been, that are, all of this stuff is documented, and lots of research has been done in these areas. But for whatever reason, you know, it just doesn't. These things just doesn't come to fore. For one reason or another. I can't speculate as to why they haven't come to fore. But you know, I don't know.
Is it that we don't want to grow? Okay, all right, let me say something now. We expect our junior athletes, we expect our babies to behave a certain way, but we're not grooming them to behave that way. So if we're not grooming them, we cannot expect them to know. So if an athlete go out there, make money while they're young, and then later on they're calling on the state to look after them, we have failed them.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
We
Hmm.
have failed them because we did not teach them about investment. We did not teach them to set up their legacy, because the minute you start competing as a junior, you have started working on your legacy. That's your legacy you've started building. So if we don't tell them that when you get your NIL deal, ensure that some of that money is put away, because if you get 10 years active out of your career, then
Hmm.
there's a problem. We have to teach them that. If we
Right.
don't teach them that, then we cannot expect them to behave that way. But just in closing, my next question is uh global global brands. How do you think global brands view a small nation like Jamaica? Are we gaining more recognition? Do you think we're gaining recognition? Before you answer, I was doing some research, of course, some reading, and I saw something that says one of the things that Jamaica we've gained through as a little nation in track and field is high respect and talent, legacy. Global brands increasingly recognize that countries like Jamaica punch above their weight, especially in track and field. I did not make that up. That was what I read. Let me read that again. It says global brands increasingly recognize that countries like Jamaica punch above their weight, especially in track and field. Thanks to legends like Usain Bolt, Shelley and Fraser Price, Veronica Campbell Brown, Asafa Powell, Donald Corey, Merlin Ottey, those were some of the names that come up, and others that Jamaican athletes as views as world class, marketable, and authentic. Why is this? We carry a cultural weight and we inspire loyalty with from worldwide fans. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it goes even farther back than that. You talk, you can even go back to the Irv McKinleys and the Arthur Wins and those guys.
Yes.
Those guys were the ones who set the trend and get us, started on this road that we have been on. And
Mhm.
that's actually where it started. Dennis Johnston, those gentlemen, and Foggy Barrows. And we just never.
GC Foster also, Mr. GC Foster
Yeah,
wins.
yeah. Oh, yes. There are many people that we can, recognize in this respect. But but and yeah,
Do you, Scouty,
it
before we go any further, do you think
mhm.
we recognize our weight or the weight that we carry as brand track and field, Jamaica track and field?
um
I don't think so.
um
I don't think
well,
so.
I think we used to recognize it, but we're at risk. We're at risk lately, for ruining
The
that brand,
image.
the image and the brand that we have built, over the years, right? Um, the when you watch the last Olympics and some of these major international events and what's going on in the Jamaican camp and athletes not, available for one reason or another, we never used to have issues like that. We never used to have issues like those, and those are the things, those are the reasons that contributed to us, building our brand, because we have been good for a long time, and we have been, and our athletes have always been willing to, to do whatever. And it just seemed like lately we have lost some of that. And I mean, I don't want to get, I have some strong feelings about this, but I think that we need to reassess, things, meaning you have federation factions fighting each other as far as who should be in charge of what and all of that. And we never used to have things like that, before. Um, Athletes getting invited and agents, coaches don't want to make them available and all that kind of stuff. That's the one part I feel strongly about, because in the end, I feel like, I'm all in support of the athletes building their legacies and maximizing their opportunities to earn. And it, it's very clear that you are best able to do that every opportunity to represent your country, every opportunity you get, right? Um, of course, some of the diamond leagues now, and you can go out there and break world records and all that good stuff. But um, we're losing some of that legacy, and other countries are taking advantage of our
Oh,
miscues.
yes, they are. They are
Yeah, they're
indeed.
not they're not sitting around and but that can't that tend to happen sometimes. I mean, look at what happened with one of our other sport. I guess I can, you look at what happened with West Indian cricket. When West Indies show up to play another country, them almost guarantee that it's going to be that other country almost guaranteed that it's going to be a loss for them,
Those were the
Uh,
days, my
because
brother.
of yeah, because of who West Indies are.
Yeah.
These days that's not the case, and a lot of the damage were done internally because you start the T20 cricket, and then that start to compete with revenues as far as the Test cricket is concerned. The Test cricket is like the Olympics, where you don't get paid a lot, but all of a sudden the World Championship comes along and they pay more prize money, and all of a sudden the athletes them start to want to compete in the World Championships more
But
than they
shouldn't
want to
we be
compete.
able to balance it though? Shouldn't we be able to balance all of these
Well,
events,
those two examples I use, the Olympics have done a good job of,
maintaining?
yes, of staving off some of the challenges that were
Yeah.
coming at them, because there was a time when NBA players couldn't play in the Olympics. Well, the Olympics relented on that. So now, the Michael Jordans and the LeBron James, all these guys start to show up and start to compete and start to play in the Olympic Games. Had they not done that, the Olympics would have continued to lose, some of that, traction that it has gained over the zillion years that the Olympics has been around. And I can see the same thing happening with, with I mean, we just introduced the Grand Slam, here in Jamaica. It's not a Jamaican meet, it's not a Jamaican thing, but the visionaries see Jamaica as a as a proper, I would say,
Yeah. One of the heavy hitters.
as one of the heavy hitters, and I wanted to be a part of that. You understand? Because we have built a brand. Why didn't they go to Bahamas, Trinidad, one of the other countries? They could have gone anywhere, but they wanted to come to Jamaica because of the brand and the success we have built over the years.
And not just that, not just that, but the energy, the vibe, the
Yes,
the Jamaican
yes,
our culture is so rich that it's not just the sports, it's not just the music, it's not just the food, but our energy as a people is a big, big part of it. Because sometimes I'm on social media and I'll see little videos, and you have other people from other Caribbean islands complaining that, hey, Jamaica is not the only island in the Caribbean. They'll tell people that they're from Trinidad, and the next thing they know, people start talking about Jamaica. Oh, I have some Jamaican friends, and I've been to Jamaica. So we are like the capital of the Caribbean. And I hope when I say that, I don't offend anybody, but we're like the capital of the Caribbean in terms of our popularity, our visibility. Let me use your word.
yeah,
Our visibility
that's right.
in
There
the
you go.
rest of the world make us the capital of the
And
Caribbean.
our music and our sports have certainly done that. And it's not just
Yeah.
track and field. I think we're the number
Mhm.
two ranked team in the world in netball, or something like that. Where our football teams, have gone, are respected. Our girls, the women's soccer team, our football team, have
Yeah.
made it to two World Cups. No other Caribbean, country have done
Back
that,
to back.
right? Back to back, right? So yeah, there is a thing, with our sports brand in general, that makes us, stand out, and but it seemed like, and some of these, I've heard people say things all the time on social media, and they would say, well, they get more respect, outside of Jamaica than within Jamaica
Well, that's
itself.
true. I have
Well,
experienced
that,
that.
that that is true.
I
While
have
there's
experienced that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
while there is some truth to that, but it's because of the respect that other people, other countries have for the Jamaican brand. That I mean, even I go to you go somewhere, and people, people flock around you. You understand? Just because you're
Yeah.
from Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
we just get that kind of respect. But
Yes.
with respect to what got us here, we have to be very careful in making sure that we're not losing sight of what got us here. I hear even media people talking about we don't need to go to Penrelays anymore. We don't need Carifta anymore. those are what has contributed to build our legacies from the youth, up and up. So now that we have gotten to a stage where we're on this pedestal, all of a sudden we need to ignore all of what has gotten us here. I don't agree with
I
with
don't agree
with stuff
either.
like that. You understand? And then you have to let the athlete, you have to allow the athletes them to have something to look forward to. The character, um,
But
those
that's where, but the character games is where their legacy start after high
correct.
school, after champs, because champs is not international now. The character games is really their first international
Well,
outing for the country.
champs can be considered international, but it's kind of the
No,
only.
champs is not the international. We're the only one that is doing champs, so it cannot be
Oh
international.
no, right, from that standpoint, but in
Yeah,
terms of
in terms
the
of viewership and
viewership,
popularity, yes,
yeah,
but
yeah. We
sorry,
Champs is the only high school team where the results are actually shown up on the World Athletics website. No other high schools anywhere in the world, of their results show up on World Athletics, website.
I like what you just said. I like something that you just said, that we cannot, we have to try not to move away from the
That's
plan
from what got us here.
that got us here. And I like that very much. And we need to be, because when I hear some journalists say, oh, Jamaica don't need to go to Caribbean anymore because we're just dominating, this is where we started. This is our legacy. We dominating the Caribbean Games for how many years is a big part of our legacy. And I hope the powers that be don't listen to those people who are saying, oh, we don't need to go to character, we don't need to go to pen. All these, and the thing is that all these events or competitions help to create this rich legacy that we can talk about week after week and reminiscing on the different. What I would like to see, I would love to see more of our athletes, especially the upcoming athletes, going to the CAC games, going to the Pan Am games, going to the Commonwealth games, because these are the games that will lead up to the big one, which is the Olympic Games. Not everybody will jump from high school to the Olympic Games. You don't see that a lot. You
No,
have to go through the different stages. And I don't know, I just think we need to, and as you said earlier, I realized that competing for country is one of the things that sponsors look for.
correct.
Not what you do on the circuit, is what you do for your country. They're looking to see how many national teams you make for your country. So
Right.
you could have been to how many Diamond League, if you're not making any national teams, you might have a problem. And I hope that coaches and handlers are listening that look, athletes, you need to make your athletes available for the CAC, the Pan Am Games, the Commonwealth Games, because these are some of the competitions that will give them visibility so that they can get
And that's the biggest concern I have, that with the you I read in the paper not too long ago how this one coach didn't make his athlete was invited to be a part of the world relays. And I guess at first they were okay with it, but then at some point they decided to change their mind and not pull the athlete from the world relays. And um I mean, I don't want to call the
no,
athlete's
don't call
name,
names.
and I don't want to call the coach's name or anything like
Mhm.
that. But why would you not make your athlete available to compete? Here's another thing. You might not. Well, I probably shouldn't say. I probably shouldn't say this, but So I'm gonna not
And
say
that's
it. But
fine. And that's fine
sometimes
because
you caught yourself into saying something it's probably not gonna come out too well. But
and that's fine because I have an interview. I have it on record. An interview with an athlete. When I asked about the world relay, the athlete said their coach did not think it makes sense. And I decided not to post that interview. Some people were saying, post it, man, you'll get a lot of likes. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to let them drag this athlete through the mud.
I mean,
So I decided not to post that video because that athlete would have been instrumental to one of our team. So I don't
yes.
know. Sometimes the coaches and I don't know because it was the coach that made the decision for them not to go. Because I
And, that,
asked
and
the question, "Are you going to World Relays?" No, I asked why, and the person said, "My coach don't think it."
I know we're not talking about sponsorship, but what do you
But
think that the chance?
it comes back to the whole sponsorship thingy because if you're going to deny your athlete from competing for a country, which is
Right,
what is going to get them
right.
visible.
And that's what I was gonna add on to it, because that athlete have just lost an opportunity to gain some visibility. Because remember, this is a world event, it's a world event. It's not an event that is taking place, in your backyard where nobody is watching, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what the audience of of World Relay was, but at least a billion people watching. I don't know, maybe 500 million. I don't know. I know it's not as big as the Olympics where you have 9 billion people watching.
You would have had a lot of countries watching because remember, this is the qualifying for the World
Yes,
Championship.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
So
still
a lot of countries had an invested interest.
right.
You know?
And if you're not like my definition of a tier one athlete, you need to let your coach know that, no man, I need, hey, listen,
I
I don't,
need to do this, coach. I
some
need to
people,
do
yeah,
this.
I need to do this, not
This
just
will
not
help us.
not just I'm in reasonably good, and I know which, anyways, it it
I'm not going
it
to put that video out. That video will stay in my vault forever.
but yeah, it there needs to be more than that, because in track and field, you don't know when, knock on wood, but and we're not hoping, we're not saying anything negative, but it's such a you just can't.
All right, guys, he's having a little internet problem, but we're going to wrap up shortly because it's almost 2 hours. So as soon as Scouty is able to get back in the conversation, we
They
are
get
going.
beat, they should
Yes,
they,
I
they should
agree.
take
You
advantage
were
of it.
having some internet issues, so we missed that last thought that you had. What was your
Yeah,
thought?
no, I was just saying that every opportunity they get, they should take advantage of it, just for the purpose of promoting and marketing
Yeah,
themselves,
yeah,
because that's what it comes down to. What it comes down to is promoting and marketing yourself, especially if you're not a tier one athlete like a UC and a Shelly and a Safa and those kind of guys, right? You kind of have to take advantage of that, and that is irrespective of whatever critique you have of the federation or whatever. It doesn't matter. You understand? I don't care who run the federation. If them pick you, you should go. You understand?
yeah. Because at the
Because
end of the day, it is helping you because
it's all about
that
you.
the
Yeah,
sponsors want to know that the athletes have visibility, and as you and I say, the competitions that involve the world is what is watched most.
correct.
When there's a world championship, more people watch that. When there's the Olympics, more people. Anything that involves the world or a global championship, you have more people watching because now you have all the countries that is grouped up in this competition and that is what sponsors want. Sponsors want you to wear their outfit that people from all around the world, all 7 continents will see you. Not just when you go to a meet in America. How many people watching you when you go to a meet in America? If it's not a global meet. How many people watching you when you run in Jamaica if it's not a global meet? How many people watching you if you go to a Diamond League if it is not a global meet? Global meet attracts more viewers than domestic leagues.
But and I heard you say on your show not too long ago too. I think when you were interviewing Javon, what's his name, Javon Powell,
Javon Powell.
and he said that what one shoe company decided not to sponsor them because they didn't run the 4x4 or something like that.
Because he didn't turn up to run for country. He
Yeah,
did not turn
okay,
up to get his country qualified.
and
That
that
was what he said in an interview. And
and
then
that
I
is
asked him, yeah.
and that is the point that we're making.
Mhm,
We're trying to
mhm.
make here that when you do that, um, it's coming back to hurt you. You're the one who is getting negatively impacted more so than
Yeah.
anything else. And
Mhm.
the other thing is, for some of these athletes who can do it now, why putting it off doesn't guarantee anything in the future. If
Yeah.
you're running 44 now and you have been invited to run at the Commonwealth Games, why wouldn't you go? Because the next Commonwealth Games is every 4 years, right? You don't know what's going to happen. You may not be running 44 4 years from now,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
that's one of the biggest accomplishments that you could have on your resume
Yeah.
outside of a Olympic or a World Championship. You understand? But and it's not just a Commonwealth. But as I'm saying, any and every the great Ronaldo, the hurdler, Niemeyer,
Who is that? From which
Ronaldo,
country?
Ronaldo Niemeyer
Oh, from the US?
from the US, former world record holder, man, dominated the hurdles for many years in a row, man. Nobody couldn't beat him, man. Between him and Greg. I was in a meeting the other day, a thing like this, like you and I are having right now, and and when he said it, I was shocked. He said he said he has never been to the Olympics. And I'm like, my mouth open wide. And I quickly put that thing in the chat. And I said, Skeets, Nehemiah, you're telling me that you never competed in the Olympic Games? I don't believe that. And he said, yeah, he has never competed in the Olympic Games. That
Wow.
man was a world record holder for how long? And then he went and played football for the San Francisco 49ers at one point. But the man dominated the hurdles for many years. He ran 12
And never
something,
made an Olympic team.
1290 or something like that. Never made an Olympic team. The one year when he was supposed to go, that was the year when I was try out for the Jamaican team as well, 1980. I think that was the year US boycotted the Olympics.
Yes. Hmm.
And he would have been the favorite, to win the gold medal and US.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is, because of world events and everything that is transpiring, all over the world, COVID, you just don't know what is going to
Yeah.
happen. You
Hmm.
understand? So
Yeah.
you have to take advantage of opportunities
When
when
you
those
get it,
opportunities are presented to you, and
indeed.
not and your coaches. You have to make your coaches understand that.
Yeah.
Right? Whoever is to be the finger, the fingers has to be pointed somewhere. If it's
Yeah.
not to the athletes, it's to the coach. Because when the federation pick you, them that have nothing to do with whether you show up or not. That's up to you and your team. No matter how poorly the federation is being run, use them too. Just like people say, oh, the federation use, you know, the athletes them. You can use them too. Use them to your benefit too, to market yourself
Yeah.
and promote yourself. Because in the end, it's your career that is going to be impacted. And
Indeed.
there is no telling that you're going to get a lane in a Diamond League meet because of all the political, you know,
Because
because
of how
of how the system is set up.
and the thing is that the sport has become so competitive. It's not just Jamaica and the US anymore. Look at Africa. South Africa made it to all the relays at the World Championship coming up. South Africa, countries like South Africa turning out athletes, countries like Botswana turning out athletes, Nigeria. So we can't think anymore that it is just, oh, Jamaica, USA in the springs. No, no.
So
Other countries, other countries are turning up. So with that said, athletes, please, brands are watching, brands are watching, brands are watching. But athletes must know how to present themselves in order to be sponsor ready, and we have to help them. We have to help them. They're not going to know. Their babies just coming up. They're not going to know what to do when a sponsor come and said, okay, I'm signing a deal with you for $1 million. They have that $1 million and they don't know where to turn with it. They don't know about investment. They don't know that they might get injured and never run again. They don't know these things. So we have to find a way and we have to continue having these discussions. So with that said,
mhm.
athletes, remember brands are watching, and not just athletes, teams, anybody who is seeking sponsorship, remember that sponsors are watching. And Scouty, I'm going to give you the last words to, if there's any advice that you have to give to our young upcoming athletes or people seeking sponsorship, just just a word in a minute or 30 seconds.
Well, every young to start with the young athletes, every young athlete should find a role model. They in terms of their continued progress, we have a lot of successful athletes on the track, and a lot of our young athletes need to find themselves a role model, somebody they can pick up the phone and talk to and call and ask a question here and there. um that's number one. Athletes need to brand themselves, right? Brand yourselves. You're more marketable when you're a brand. And even though technically even though we can all refer to ourselves as brand, as individuals, you need to formalize it. Formalize it means you develop a vision, a mission, core values. So when you call a company, you outlay all of these things so the company immediately finds out more about you. They want to know who they're spending their money on, right? Develop your visibility. Continue to develop your visibility, to grow your visibility. I mean, I know current athletes don't have time to be on podcasts on YouTube and develop the YouTube channel and podcast channel and things like that. But you mentioned some of them. Maybe you can do some speaking engagements here and there. I saw the Lewis Hamilton, the great the race car F1 driver. He running a F1 race on, I think it was 2 weeks ago, like on Sunday. And the Monday, the next day, he was in New York as one of the big model at the New York model, fashion show as a model.
Oh,
You know,
that's the you're talking about the Met Gala.
I don't know what it's. I don't know what it's called. It's,
Okay,
it's a new. No, it was called a New York fashion show.
okay, okay, okay,
But
okay.
he probably get $1 zillion to show up there. But my point is, he competed at the F1 race the night before or the day before in Miami, and the next day he was in New York walking the runway. In
Mm.
white outfit, well dressed, and all of that. Right? I don't know how many of our track and field athletes would do stuff like that. But it's New York Fashion Show is one of the most visible fashion show in on the planet when it comes to that industry. So a lot of everybody was there. In terms of you know stars and things like that. But utilize the opportunity when you have a certain amount of visibility. Continue to grow your visibility, right? UCN is known globally, and I just saw the deal that he just struck with the Jamaica Tourist Board. Deals like that has been out there for a while. You understand? where he's going to become a global ambassador now for the for the Jamaica Tourist Board. So yeah, absolutely. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about, and you don't have to be a retired athlete, to be taking advantage of those kind of opportunities. So it's just a matter of, like I said, understand the industry, understand the whole dynamics of sponsorship. I talk about this one company who received 80,000 proposals, for sponsorship, and as a matter of fact, I think I shared a video with you where the guy who was doing the presentation said that they didn't sponsor not one person, not one single, person who reached out to them out of the 80,000. That's because they didn't present their thing the right and proper way, and they didn't make an argument or make a case for why they should sponsor them. So, those are key, those are important. I could go on and on and on, but there are also some companies, HP, that I'm talking to, big companies that have done well within the Jamaican consumer market. And I don't see those companies getting involved with sponsorship. The names that I see all the time are the Digicel, the Grace Kennedys, the Flows, the NCB once in a while, and some, and others, as well. But there are some companies that
A lot of companies, a lot. I
yeah, a
was
lot of
doing
companies.
I was doing my
Yeah,
research of the companies in Jamaica, and you shared a list with me to a whole lot
yeah,
of companies. But people, we tend to go to the same person. Everybody tend to go to Grace and Digicel. Oh my God, Grace and Digicel have done so much. Everybody needs sponsorship. If it's not Grace Kennedy, is Digicel. There are other companies that, I mean, there are resorts, there are hotels, there are banks, there are factories. Well, I don't know if we have a lot of factories anymore, but
well,
you get what I'm trying to say. There are
right,
so many other companies in Jamaica that you can. I mean, I used to work with Singer Jamaica Limited, and Singer used to sponsor track and field. We used to sponsor Champs. We used to sponsor the Gibson Relay. We used to sponsor the Grace Jackson Meet. So we have been, when I was a part of them, used to do a lot for sports. You can go to smaller industries, or I mean, there are so many of them. There are little companies that would love somebody to align themselves to their brand in order to make their brand a little bigger than it is. We have a lot of restaurants in Jamaica. We have a lot
right.
of hangout spots, a lot of entertainment spots, that, so many places. We have ice cream outlet, we have this, we have fast food. There are so many places that, but we tend to always, you need sponsorship? Okay, go and write a letter to Grace, or write a letter to Digicel. And oh my God, I'm supposed to tired to see letters from us,
Yeah,
including me. I mean, I've written to them too. So, they must have been tired to see, oh my God, everybody coming to us. But guys, spread your wings as it relates
I
to.
call I call a company the other day, HP. I call a restaurant the other day about sponsorship for my clients, for one of my clients. And um when the way when I call the company, this guy answered the phone, and I said to him, he wasn't the owner of the restaurant, but he said he's going to pass on the message. I said, listen, hey, I'm such and such, and I was calling to 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 present, to tell you, or to present to you an opportunity of how I can help you guys grow, as a restaurant. And he said, and I said, is that something you guys would be interested in? And he said, well, of course. But he said, well, if it comes to, if you're talking about, growing, or, gaining more market share or whatever, we're certainly interested. But the owner is not here right now. So, if you can call back. So I haven't called him back yet, but I'm going to call him back.
Please call them back, sir.
Yeah, but that is how you have to present it. I
Yes.
didn't call them to say, hey, my name is such and such, and I'm looking for sponsorship, and I wanted to know if you guys would be interested. No, I said to them, I can help you grow. I can help you, you know, gain a little bit more, sell more food, or whatever the case may be. And the guy asked me how, and I gave him a quick summary of how I could help him. And he said, I'm sure the owner would be interested. So, but I'll
Awesome.
call them back and see where it goes. But
Awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
man.
With that said, guys, thank you for being here with us. I hope this information, please share the information, guys. Please let it get out there because this is vital information. Um, our athletes need our help. They need to know this, and not just athletes, but anybody seeking sponsorship. Share it with the clubs, share it with everybody, because at the end of the day, a coach working for an athlete will also benefit from these endorsements or sponsorships. So please share the information. I'll be back here Thursday in my usual chair with my athlete, and of course we are going to go a little bit more into another branch of our track and field legacy, which is the Masters League that has been very, very quiet. So we are going to blow that up and create some awareness for that. So thank you very much, Scouty, for being here. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. And it was indeed a pleasure learning from you and also sharing with our fans and our athletes and our coaches and anybody who is looking for sponsors. Even if you're a content creator, this applies to you. It's not just for athletes, but you have to see yourself as a brand, sorry. Scouty, thank you very much and have a good night, sir.
All right, yeah, man. Take care and good to be here and share my information with anybody who needs advice.
I will, I will.
I don't have a problem, talking to them.
I
All right,
definitely will. Have a good night, and we
all
will
right. Have a
speak,
good night.
sir.
All
Okay.
right, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Guys, thank you very much for being here tonight. That was indeed, a conversation that we need to have. We need to continue having it. And of course, we suited up tonight in order to bring you this presentation. And of course, Scouty is very knowledgeable, as I said before. And if you need help with anything like this, he is your man. Let me tell you guys, he writes a very, very good proposal. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. He is my agent. Yes, he is my agent. And guys, he wrote a proposal on me and I could not believe it. So he is very knowledgeable and he writes a very good proposal. When he shared the proposal with me, I was like, wow, this man is selling me. But that is what we have to do. We have to present ourselves as a brand. And the sponsorship might not come overnight, but you have to keep doing the work and you have to keep up that image. And of course, I shared some of the information with you earlier. What sponsors are looking for? Sponsors are looking for people that align with their values. And of course, you have to have an image, you have to have a mission. You need your mission statement, you need your vision statement, you need your tagline, you need your logo. A matter of fact, this logo that you're looking at right now was designed by Scouty himself. So, you have to have an image and you have to treat your brand in a professional way. You have to have a look. If you're doing a podcast, you need to turn up for your podcast on time. You need to have your things structured. And that is what people like me try to do. So I hope the information was helpful. And as I said before, please share it with athletes and coaches and teams and brands that are looking to gain sponsorships. I just want to thank everybody, whether you're coming from Africa, whether you're coming from Asia, whether you're coming from North America, South America, Europe, Antarctica, Oceanic, all seven continents. Welcome and thank you for being here. And please remember to come back Thursday night when I will be in my usual chair where I will be speaking with one Damian Maxwell, who is a part of another branch of Jamaica Track and Field Legacy, which is the Masters League. And of course, we're going to talk about the Jamaica Masters League, how long it's been around, what it's doing, because it's been very quiet. So the idea is to blow it up a little bit, give it some attention, and have the powers that be doing a little bit more for fans to know about it. So I want to thank Tamika, who was on, Carrion Phillips, Davian Clark, Olympian Davian Clark, Damian Maxwell was here. Uh, Dorothy Scott, genius, Olympian, Jamaican Olympian, was also here. Ethelyn Tate was also here, another Jamaican Olympian. Marlene Green was also here. Daniel England was also here. Thank you all for turning up. Anthony Henry, thank you also for being here. And guys, more than anything else, thank you for participating in the discussion and giving us your feedback on your questions and everything. And also, One Track Hero was also here. So, guys, thank you very much. And join me Thursday night when I will be back here to do it all over again. I was going to say enjoy your weekend, but it's not yet the weekend. It is just Tuesday night. So, have a great night, people. And I will see you Thursday on time. Please be here. And remember, guys, share the content with your friends, your family, your channel, wherever. Just share it, share it, share it. And thank you very much. And I will see you on Thursday. Have a good night.
Jamaica's track
Bye.
and field legacy is unmatched. It is a story of triumph, resilience, and extraordinary talent. But do you know the stories behind the athletes who brought us glory? Hi, I'm HP, founder of HP Chat Track. My mission is simple: to celebrate the rich legacy of Jamaica track and field and shine a light on the incredible people who make it happen. Winning that race was a dream come true, but the journey wasn't easy. It's not just about medals, it's about inspiring the next generation. Jamaica track and field isn't just a sport, it's our pride, our culture, our heart. Every week I sit down with athletes, coaches and fans to bring you stories of dedication, passion and legacy. Plus, we've got exciting news and exclusive insights into the world of track and field. Make your Thursday night be at HP's place. Come hang out with us at HP Chat Track Studio, where track and field is our business.